All right. Thank you both for joining. Just a little bit about myself. My name is Farah Ishaq. I'm an assistant professor of sport management at Aurora University. And as you could see from the title of the presentation, yes, creating sport industry connections and skill development through virtual workshops and career reflection. However, I think the information that I'll present today is completely applicable to several other areas, several other industries, several other majors. So feel free, again, there's just a small group of us to ask questions throughout if you do have any. But just to get us started a little bit in terms of the layout for this presentation. The reason I'm talking about career exploration, because in AU's sport management program, one of the first classes first and second year students take is the career exploration in sport management class. So this is where I've built in this specific aspect of career exploration is in the career exploration in sport management course that we offer. So to get us started, I'm going to go through a little bit on course description of what that looks like. But again, certainly applicable in different classes, different majors, whatever that may be. Another thing I'm going to talk about is the idea of why career exploration. There was actually an article from, if any of you follow Inside Higher Ed, that came through regarding career exploration, especially in the times of COVID and even before COVID as well. So we'll explore a little bit, won't spend too much time, but I did bring up a little bit of research of why career exploration is important. Additionally, part of this aspect is the guest speaker or virtual workshop. So we'll get into a little bit of overview of who I utilize this semester. And again, that changes basically almost every semester for me, who I bring into my courses, who I bring in to talk about their specific careers, and how they apply that within their specific industries. The nice thing about career exploration and sport management, it's set up in a way where every single week we're talking about a different area of sport. I'll talk about this a little bit later, but the guest speakers typically are connected with that content for the week. So I think that helps with overall organization. I will pull up two video examples from this past semester to show you kind of what happens during the guest speakers and what they talk about. So I'll pull up a couple examples of that within the context of this assignment. And then another piece of the career exploration is this career exploration assignment, which they're actually currently working on this part of the semester. We'll talk a little bit about the connection between the guest speakers and how they can apply that information to their career exploration assignment. And then lastly, we'll talk a little bit about the application to the industry. We also have a sport management capstone class that I teach as well, that I try to make those connections, because with career exploration, one of the first classes they take, with capstone, one of the last classes they take. So that's kind of how I have it organized with those two courses as well. So just to get us started, I wanted to put in the course overview of the career exploration in sport management course. And if you take a look at the course description here, students will learn about different careers and opportunities within field of sport management and be introduced to the principles of sport management and organizational theory. So with this course, it's much more broad approach. So what are the different areas within the industry? We talk a little bit about theories and concepts associated with each area. And then we wrap up each chapter by talking about different career explorations. We pull up different careers. We have a guest speaker associated with it. We look at job descriptions. So that's really what we're talking about when we talk about career exploration in sport management. This is the course in which I utilize the career exploration assignment as well as guest speakers. And keep in mind, for us specifically at AU, this course is geared towards first or second year students that I have in my course. I think I have 31, and almost all of them are freshmen or sophomores. So that's something to consider as I talk about this idea of career exploration. A couple other things, in addition to the course overview, some of the learning outcomes, two of them are associated with both the career exploration assignment as well as the guest speakers that I bring in. So with the learning outcomes, a couple of them apply again to both. Students will demonstrate an understanding of a variety of careers in order to make informed choices regarding internship and employment opportunities. So obviously, with the career exploration course, they're still very early in their careers, in their academic careers, and exploring what areas of interest they'd like to be in. So this is kind of a pathway to start exploring those different options. And then that last learning outcome there, students will learn practical skills, networking, resume, career planning. One of the first assignments they do is a simple career journal in which they're interested in working for, interning for, and getting as much information possible regarding that aspect. So those are a couple learning outcomes. We've gone through the course overview as well. But now I want to discuss the idea of why career exploration. If any of you subscribe to Inside Higher Ed, this headline might have come through your email recently. The idea of career exploration. And you can see by the subtitle here, students are frustrated about a lack of career exploration in college, and some universities seek a bigger role for professors as career mentors. So we'll take a look at why that was a piece of this specific journal or article from Inside Higher Ed and why that's important. It did primarily focus on COVID in the times of COVID, but that's not always the case when we talk about career exploration, right? Ultimately, hopefully sooner rather than later in the post-pandemic area, hopefully careers and those career options are plentiful for our students right now within the sport industry. As you can imagine, it's a little bit difficult with COVID in terms of students finding internships and whatnot. But even if you consider career exploration outside of COVID-19, take a look at one of these quotes that I saw from this article. The relative lack of career exploration options for college students is not a new problem. Even if you put in COVID-19 into this scenario, right? COVID-19 just poured gasoline on the fire, right? Many students are frustrated with their institutions for struggling to keep up with a rapidly evolving landscape of work. And that's why I think the guest speaker, industry professional piece is so important because they're in the field, right? Um, right now, yes, I've had experience in the field, but right now I'm in academia, right? I may not be 100% up to date as someone that's currently in the field, right? So those are all things to consider, especially when you see something like this come through within COVID um, as well. Additionally, a couple other things to consider. 1 in 5 college students said in pandemic has made their opportunities for career exploration much worse. Not surprising. Economy, uncertainty about the job market have made it harder for colleges to help with career exploration as well, right? There's only so much we can do to help, whether it's your academic or student success center, whether it's you as a faculty member, whether it's you as an internship coordinator. A lot of moving pieces there, especially in the time of COVID. And then lastly, broad acknowledgement that career exploration should be part of a good college educations. It means more when you connect it to the end goal. And that's why I brought up the piece of capstone. What we're trying to introduce students within the career exploration part of the course and connecting that to the capstone part of the course as well. A couple other things on here. College students who feel supported in connecting their post-secondary education to career are more likely to say college was well worth the cost, right? So even if you say in the admissions process that we do have these career exploration opportunities, it's likely to increase overall retention and say that college is actually worth the very expensive price tag we have on college and higher education now. Another thing that I wanted to note, especially with career exploration, it's shown that exposing students to career exploration activities is one way to support student success in higher education, including those within underrepresented communities. And that's very important, especially in the context of Aurora University. Why? Because Aurora University is a Hispanic serving institution, meaning 25% or greater of the student population is Hispanic. So if you think of that, it's really a sense of really creating a purpose in their career development, leading to deeper levels of commitment, leading to deeper levels of persistence within their academic careers, but also in the long run when we talk about their career exploration. So additionally, last thing with research before I get into some of the examples, occupational engagement is one of the key terms within a career exploration. And what this means, it's the need for individuals to understand the world of work by learning about and participating in various activities to contribute to their fund of information. If you take a look at occupational engagement, we know based on some research that's out there that major and career planning courses, career exploration courses, help drive different activities to contribute to the fund of information, understanding what careers are, understanding career decision making. So, as you could see in the context of career exploration, we know that's a very important field in terms of getting students used to the idea of we start now. Our freshman year is when we start. Our first year is when we start looking at careers and understanding how that can apply again to their final capstone in senior year. So, a couple things I want to mention. This is pretty wordy, but it's straight from my abstract as well. One of the first components of the career exploration assignment is having guest speakers throughout the semester. So, in an effort to provide experiential learning, virtual workshops, or virtual guest speakers were developed in this course, specifically, again, related to the context that we're discussing that week. So, it varied from event management to facility management, communications. I had an individual talk about COVID-19 and social injustice in sport. It ranges from nonprofit organizations to collegiate organizations to international sport organizations to sport analytics organizations. So these are some that you might expect throughout the semester. We talked with the director of special events at US Ski and Snowboard. I'll show you an example, a little bit of what she talked about when she talked about fundraising. So if you think of, again, the different aspects, we're very broad when we talk about career exploration. We're talking about several different components of the sport industry. That's why you see several different topics here, from guest services, social justice, planning an event, social media management. Within these guest speakers throughout the semester, they're also responsible for a guest speaker summary. 5 brief takeaways of what they learned. That way, they have something physical, they have an artifact that they could use and apply to the career exploration assignment, which I'll talk about here in a bit. Right now, I just want to go through a little bit in terms of who I invited this past semester and a little bit of what they talked about, just to give you an idea of the context of obviously within sport management, but hopefully you can apply these concepts within your own fields as well. But one of the first people I brought in was Brandon Johnson. He works in athletic strategies and engagement. And one of the biggest things he was able to talk about, especially in athletic strategies and engagement, was the idea of social injustice, how the student athletes at Division I Drexel University were handling social injustice issues that were happening or continue to happen in our country. So he was able to apply that, again, a very important topic, but applying it within the sport industry. We see it all the time with the NBA canceling games, the WNBA doing a ton of social justice work as well. So Brandon was able to apply the idea of social injustice and how the sport world was handling that. So that was his primary talk regarding college athletics and social justice. And another person that I brought in was Jackie Ludke. So she was part of the event operations, guest services part of my course. And she's the director of special events and hospitality at US Ski and Snowboard, which is a national governing body for that sport within the US Olympic and Paralympic Committee. And a large part of her task was fundraising. And she holds and hosts and plans a plethora of events that deal with fundraising. So she was able to talk through some of the events that she runs, why they're so important, and what that means, especially for a nonprofit organization in sport. So I'm going to briefly play a minute clip from her talk. Let me make sure I'm sharing my sound. I am. Perfect. So let's hear what Jackie had to say, and then we'll move on to some more examples.
Operations department, we manage all of our special events and fundraisers. So as I mentioned, because we're a nonprofit, we have to raise money. So in a pre-COVID world, we would have between 8 and 10 fundraisers. So on the bottom left picture is our New York Gold Medal Gala, and it would have been the 54th year this year. That was last year, and that event is over 500 people, and it's a gala, right? It's a cocktail hour, it's a seated dinner, it's a live program. So that is really our flagship special event or fundraiser, I would call it. And then we do various events all around the US. So we have one in St. Louis, Park City, Boston, California, kind of ranging just different areas. So we do galas or fundraisers like that. And then I do salon events of 10 to 15 people at a dinner with a few athletes, or a golf tournament or something like that. Each year is a little bit different. We have our staple events like this New York one, but it kind of depends on the participation and the activation of what our donors want to do and what the athletes want to do.
So that's just a snippet from, again, the international sport aspect of the content we talk about in the course. So she was just briefly discussing the idea of fundraising events and why that's so important, especially in the context of nonprofit sport. Another example, Megan, she's Associate Director of Event Services at Iowa State University. So she was able to walk us through the changing nature of guest services within the sport industry. We also talked to Mike Gardner, who's a public relations manager. If you're familiar with racing or NASCAR, you might be familiar with Watkins Glen International in upstate New York. He was able to talk about some of his experiences dealing with media, dealing with the drivers as part of his responsibilities as a public relations manager. And then lastly, one of the more recent speakers we had just a couple weeks ago is Jordan Rutner. And this is part of the sport analytics aspect of our course. So he's a senior insights analyst of core software located in New York City. So he was able to do a good job of discussing sponsorship activation and how they look at the data within sponsorship activation, especially when there's currently no fans in the stands. So I have a brief example of him discussing sponsorship activation, especially in the times of COVID. So we know with COVID, a lot of learning experiences with COVID, especially in industries like sport management, you could probably argue that wasn't really prepared for something like this. So I'm just going to briefly play 40 seconds of this, him talking about different sponsorship activations based on not even having any fans in the stands. So super interesting concept here.
Cinnamon Toast Crunch did a sponsorship activation with the Minnesota Twins and the Miami Marlins. And they could have just put a tarp over the seats and placed a logo that says Cinnamon Toast Crunch. They could have added color to it, make it look like a bowl of cereal. Instead, they put their actual cereal with their faces on it in seats. That stood out. It got all over Twitter and LinkedIn, and it got so much more exposure than just a tarp over the outfield. So going back to one of your earlier questions about what we're seeing teams doing during COVID, it's really exercising creativity. There was no such thing as a stupid idea during COVID because anything could work. You just don't know until you try it or until you get some feedback from it.
So again, Jordan works in sport analytics, so he was able to discuss a little bit of what they do now that the sport industry wasn't necessarily having fans at that time. So if you think of these guest speaker, you might ask yourself, what's next, right? I also have a component called the career exploration assignment that they're currently working on now, so near the end of the semester. So when we take a look at specifically the career exploration assignment, this is just a brief description of what that would look like. Each student will be given an opportunity to identify specific career aspiration, describe roles and responsibilities, conduct an interview with a professional in the field, do a little report/reflection of what they learned and how they can apply that moving forward, as well as applying a few of the things the guest speakers had said. That's why I do guest speaker summaries. So they have that artifact that they're able to utilize for the career exploration assignment. So with this assignment, again, they're responsible for a couple different things that I noted here in a 4 to 5 page report. I wanted to show a couple different excerpts from students' work. So one of the things I particularly am noting here is what they learned from the interview that they have from guest speakers. And one of the things noted here, sports are live. There are no redos, no second chances in terms of events themselves. And in this case, the events are the Red Claws, which is a team's practices and games, right? So understanding how you can apply what you learned from the guest speakers, what you learned to the interview, to your actual reflection, to your actual report. Here's another excerpt from the same student as well. This is more of kind of his conclusion after assessing the role of director of basketball operations. He specifically noted the unpredictability of jobs is what brings excitement, especially within the sport industry. Working as a general manager is my dream. However, I understand that in the sport industry, you have to start certain jobs and work your way up. Understanding that you're not going to start as a director of basketball operations right away. Those are the types of thoughts, especially as undergrads, especially as first and second year students, that we want to start considering when we talk or start exploring careers that early on in your academic careers. So when we look at the application of something like this, whoops, a couple things to consider, right? This is a career explorations course. It's primarily first and second year students. I use this principles and practices of sport management text because it does a good job of organizing the different areas. So I'm able to play off that for guest speakers. I'm able to play off that for the career exploration assignment. And like I mentioned, I also try to apply the career exploration side of things to their end goal. And that's what we talk about in the capstone class. So in capstone, we do a lot of plan of actions. We do a personal, professional, strategic plan as part of the capstone project. So being able to apply that, I think, is important as well. Connection to course content. I talk about the idea that for a specific topic we talk about that week, that's being applied to a guest speaker. I don't bring a guest speaker every single week. I have about 5 throughout the semester. And then lastly, just considering what sort of application are there in other courses or other majors or those for third or fourth year students, juniors and seniors. How can you apply something like this in that aspect? So those are all things to consider when you talk about application within the career exploration process. I only left about a couple minutes, so I apologize, but I'm happy to take any questions. My email is there as well. If you'd like any more information or want to collaborate on anything, I'm happy to provide that as well. Appreciate you joining. Let me open up the chat. Thank you, Julie. Appreciate it. To take any questions or feel free, again, I'm open to, if you'd like to email me, always happy to respond as well. I'm hoping too, I know I put sport industry in the title, but again, I'm hoping if you're not in sport, you were able to get a couple takeaways from it as well.
Yeah, the sport management field is so broad, and most people don't even know how to define it or what it is.
Yep, exactly.
And so I teach at North Central College in sport management, so I understand some of the struggles that students have. And they come to me and they go, "Well, what is it that I can do? Where do I want to go?" Things like that.
Yep.
And so one of the questions I had for you is, are you more focused on skills-based curriculum, or are you more on the theoretical understanding curriculum?
We're more of the skills-based experiential learning side of it. So we do have that internship component built in as well. I think it's 200 hours for sport management. I know, Sean, you could talk a little bit about internship, but regarding the experiential side of things, it's primarily looking at projects that are actually applicable to the industry. We do talk a little bit about theory in terms of how you could apply that to the experiential side of things, but it's primarily looking at kind of how you can apply it to where you're going in the future rather than focusing a ton on the theories involved in that process.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have about 10 seconds left. Again, I appreciate you joining. Feel free to message me if you need any additional information. Thanks so much, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, you.
Farah.
Welcome back, everyone. Got a little breather here. We'll get you set up. The next session is the second panel session. So there will only be 2 choices of rooms to go to. There's 5 papers altogether, but they're broken up expertly into themes based on what was submitted into 2 panels, both of which have a moderator, very similar to the one we had this morning. So your choices are fewer